Alien woman waited all day beneath a help wanted sign until a human took her home. Varelian spire floated above the cloud banks like a ring of glass and steel, its upper tiers alive with cold white light. The morning trams whispered by on magnetic rails, and advertisements scrolled in silent loops along the tower walls. A mist clung to the deck plating, thin enough to show the hairline welds beneath the city's polish. Stu Reese stood in front of his shop and pressed a sheet of paper against the glass. The black block letters read, "Help wanted." Tape hissed as he sealed the corners. He stepped back, checked alignment, and held a moment longer than needed. He hadn't hired anyone in 3 years. He didn't like people in his space. But the backlog was growing. Dozens of cracked slates, corrupt data cores, mislabeled storage drives from companies that didn't even exist anymore. He needed another pair of hands. Someone who wouldn't talk too much. Someone who could disappear into the work like he did. He locked the sign in place, turned the key, and went back inside. The archive smelled of dust and warm metal. Amber lamps washed the cracked countertops in steady light. Thin preservation tanks lined the far wall, their quiet hum steady as breath. Stu hung his coat on the hook, rolled his sleeves to his elbows, and scanned the queue on his console. His shoulders stayed square, jaw set. He still moved like the scout he used to be, calm, efficient, always ready to react. Not many people knew that about him. He preferred it that way. By mid-morning, foot traffic thickened on the upper deck. Clerks in press jackets, students with thin gloves and coffee tins, bots trundling packages between lifts. They passed a sign, glanced, and kept moving. Until one didn't. She stood still beneath the sign like she had been placed there. Her skin held a muted orange tone that caught the blue from the glass rail. Long white hair ran straight down her back, heavy from the damp. A torn ceremonial wrap clung to her ribs by one frayed ribbon. It left her shoulders bare and split high at her thigh. Her feet were bare. No bag, no tools, nothing. Stu noticed the way her eyes tracked movement without moving her head. How her hands stayed still even when a tram hissed past. She looked exhausted, but her posture never sagged. She had the look of someone who'd been told to leave a place and had nowhere left to walk to. Two students slowed and whispered. One snorted. She didn't turn. A delivery bot scanned the sign, beeped, and rolled on. People made space around her without touching her, the way people do when they assume someone is trouble. Stu stayed behind the counter and watched. Not kindly, not coldly either, just reading. He was good at that. It was what made him a better archivist than anyone else on this tier. He could see what would survive and what wouldn't. He waited until the crowd thinned, until only the mist and her were left. Then he stepped outside. "You read the sign," he said. She blinked once, slow. "Yes." "You looking for work?" he said. "I'm looking for a place that will keep me," she said. Her voice was low, steady, but frayed at the edges like the wrap. "I'll work if that's the price." He didn't answer right away. He studied her eyes, amber, bright under the deck lights. No drugs, no wild flicker, just tired and sharp at the same time. He could see how hard she was holding herself together. He understood that. He'd done it for years after leaving the service. "Name," he said. "Illyra." "Experience?" "Many kinds," she said. "None with paper." "Good," he said. Her brow tightened. "Good. Means you won't argue about how it's supposed to be done," he said. He pushed the door open. Inside, she followed him in without hesitation. He respected that. Most people flinched the first time they crossed his threshold. The warmth hit her first, the air thick with the scent of boiled Varan root and metal polish. He pointed to the counter stacked with cores. "Pins right, serials up, wipe with contact swabs." "No solvent," he said. "If one fights you, stop. Cut yourself and you're out." "I won't," she said. "Everyone says that," he said. He leaned on the counter and watched. Her fingers were precise, slower than his, but steady. She checked each core stamp before wiping the pins. She didn't talk, didn't fidget. The only movement came when she retied the ribbon at her chest in a sharp knot. It held. She kept working. Her breathing was shallow, like she was bracing for him to stop her. He didn't. He stayed silent until the hum of the tanks filled the space and the clock ticked over. You worked with data cores before, he said. No, she said, but I can watch and copy. That works, he said. By noon, her hands were steady and her posture had shifted. Less rigid, not relaxed, but centered. He set down a bowl of root stew and a small tin of frozen seed coffee. She hesitated, then ate quickly. He said nothing about it. He remembered what hunger did to the body. She didn't thank him. He didn't expect her to. When she finished, she set the spoon down and looked at the door. Her expression tightened, like she was weighing if she should leave now before he changed his mind. Stu saw the calculation. He remembered making it in other people's rooms years ago, waiting to see if he was about to be thrown out or kept. Come back tomorrow, he said. Her shoulders dropped just enough to see. Same time. Earlier, he said. She nodded. I can do that. Then it's settled, he said. She rose, quiet and measured, and slipped out into the mist. He watched her white hair vanish through the glass. He didn't move for a while. The shop was silent except for the low hum of the tanks. Hiring her was a risk. He knew that. But so was letting her walk away and wonder if anyone here would ever stop and see her. He had seen enough people disappear to know what it looked like just before they did. Stu reached for the logboard, marked her name, and wrote nothing else beside it. For now, that was enough. Mist clung low over the upper deck the next morning, soft enough to blur the walkways, but not enough to hide her. She stood by a shop door again, earlier than he'd asked. The paper sign still fluttered under the rail lights, its black ink warped slightly from the damp. She didn't knock. She just waited, arms loose at her sides, shoulders bare, eyes fixed on the sign like she was daring it to be taken down before she earned her place. Stu saw her from the stairwell before he unlocked the door. She was standing the same way as yesterday, but something had changed. Her stance wasn't rigid now. It was measured. She wasn't freezing in place to survive anymore. She was holding ground. That difference mattered. He opened the door without a word. You came back, he said. You told me to, she answered. Plenty don't, he said. Plenty aren't me, she replied. Her tone was quiet, almost flat, but it carried something he hadn't heard yesterday. A trace of defiance. Not to him, just to the world. He motioned her inside. The warm air pushed back the chill around her. She still wore the same ceremonial wrap, but it was tied tighter now. The ribbon had been knotted high against her ribs, and the fabric sat clean across her hip. No trembling this time. He noticed her feet were scraped raw at the edges, the kind of where you only got from walking metal, grating barefoot for days. He said nothing about it. Instead, he pulled an old dark shirt from the supply crate and set it on the counter. Wear this. Customers look less if they can't see skin. She hesitated, eyes flicking to him, then to the shirt. Does it matter what they look at? It matters how much trouble they think you're worth, he said. That landed. She nodded and slipped the shirt on over her wrap. The hem fell to mid-thigh. The collar sagged off her shoulder, leaving a slice of orange gold skin showing. She adjusted nothing. He handed her a slate tray and fresh gloves. Today you handle labeling. Numbers rows center-aligned. Don't guess. If you aren't sure, ask. I'll be sure, she said. They worked for 2 hours in silence, except for the faint hiss of the preservation tanks. Stu caught himself watching her sometimes, not her body, but her rhythm. She moved fast, but not sloppy, like she was afraid of wasting time she hadn't earned. Every time he checked her work, it was correct. At midday, he set down 2 bowls of larnberry porridge and sat on the counter to eat. She froze, unsure if she was allowed to sit. You eat standing up where you're from? He asked. You didn't say I could, she said. I didn't say you couldn't, he said. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, and ate without looking up. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was watchful, like both of them were trying to understand the rules of something unspoken. After, she rinsed the bowls without being told. He marked her name on the logboard again, this time adding the word staff beside it. She noticed. Why write that? Means I'll answer for you if someone complains, he said. Someone will, she said. They always do, he said. Her eyes flicked to him, sharp, searching, and then back to the logboard. You don't know what I am. Doesn't matter until it matters, he said. Will it? She asked. It might, he said. When it does, we'll decide if you stay anyway. That silenced her, but not in defeat. more like she was storing the words to weigh later. The rest of the afternoon blurred into steady motion, sorting, cleaning, repairing. He showed her how to seat the cores into the tank lamps, how to pulse low power through them to burn off static residue. She memorized each step after one demonstration. Not just copying, understanding. He could see her mentally mapping the system. By the time the lamps dimmed and the walkways outside went pale and empty, she had outpaced him on the slate queue. "You've done enough," he said, shutting down the register. She kept working another 2 minutes before stopping. "Where should I go tonight?" The question was flat but loaded. He studied her for a long moment. "You've been sleeping outside?" "Yes." "Where?" "Under the vent rail, near deck 8. It's warm. No one looks there." He knew the place. It smelled like coolant and mold. "Not anymore," he said. She watched him carefully. "And if I say no, then you walk back to the vent rail and keep watching the door every morning," he said, "until you can't stand anymore." Her throat worked. Not from emotion, from restraint, from the effort of not showing relief. "Where?" she said quietly. He pointed up the narrow stairs to the loft above the shop. "Floor mat. There's a blanket. It locks from the inside. No one goes up but me." She stepped toward the stairs, then paused. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I need you rested," he said. It was partly true. The other part he didn't say, because he'd seen people on the edge before, and he was tired of watching them drop. She climbed the stairs. He stayed at the counter, listening to her steps. At the top, she stopped, looked down once at him, then vanished into the soft amber light of the loft. He locked the door, turned out the lamps, and stood still in the dark shop. His muscles stayed tense, but not from threat, just the old habit of bracing for something to go wrong. It didn't. Above, the faint hum of the small player started. Something quiet, steady. He let himself breathe. Tomorrow, he thought, they would see if she stayed. The shop was silent when Stu woke. The trams outside hummed faintly through the glass walls, and the deck plating ticked as the morning heaters kicked on. He lay still for a few moments, letting his body scan the room the way it always did, checking for noise, air, shift, any sign of intrusion. Nothing, just quiet. Then he heard her breathing. It was slow, steady, coming from the floor mat at the far corner of the loft. He turned his head. Illyra was curled under the thin blanket, white hair spilling across the edge of the mat, one arm tucked under her cheek. The shirt he'd given her had slid off one shoulder. Her bare leg was folded under her, skin faintly golden in the dim light. She wasn't shivering this time. That struck him more than anything. He sat up, swung his legs off the bed, and stood. She stirred instantly, like her body had been waiting for any shift. Her eyes opened sharp, alert, then softened when she saw him. "You wake fast," he said. "You walk like someone who doesn't trust the floor," she replied. Her voice was rough with sleep but calm. He didn't deny it. She pushed herself upright, holding the blanket around her. For the first time, he noticed how thin her arms were under the smooth skin. Not frail, just worn down. She had the frame of someone who once carried more weight and hadn't eaten enough to keep it. "You slept," he said. "Did I?" "You didn't move for 6 hours," he said. "That counts." She blinked like she was deciding if that was true, then nodded once. "It's the first time in 12 days. He didn't comment. He just walked to the small sink and filled 2 mugs with hot Ferland sea brew. She stayed seated, watching him, waiting like she wasn't sure if this counted as hers. He set 1 mug on the floor by her mat. "Drink before work." She wrapped her hands around it and stared at the steam. "Is this payment or charity?" "Neither," he said. "It's fuel. I need you sharp." Her lips tightened, then eased. "Then I'll be sharp." They worked the morning queue side by side. Stu assigned her the intake log this time, recording IDs, condition notes, and shelf routing. She watched how he did it once, then matched his rhythm within minutes. Her handwriting was precise, almost too precise, like she thought mistakes would cost her the job. Between clients, he caught her glancing at the door. Not like she was planning to run, more like she expected someone to come looking. "Anyone know you're here?" he asked. "No." "No one will come asking?" "No," she said, then hesitated. "They didn't want me where I was." Leaving was easy. "Where was that?" he asked. She paused over the ledger, pen still. An orbital cultural registry on Tier 11. I was a data interpreter until they called me inefficient and sent me out with a meal slip and a warning not to return. That's not inefficient, he said. That's discarded. She looked at him sharply, then down again. Yes. He said nothing more about it. She didn't either. By midday, they were working in sync without speaking. He handled physical repairs, she logged and shelved. When customers came, they spoke to him first, but more and more glanced toward her when leaving, quietly surprised she was there. She didn't flinch at their stares anymore. When they paused to eat, he set out Zyron bread and berry paste. She spread it with careful strokes, slow and even. I'm not used to eating where people can see, she said. Get used to it, he said. She gave him a look, measured, not hostile, and took another bite. Later, he found her standing by the preservation tanks, studying the faint crack running along the wall panel. This building's old, she said. So am I, he said. Are you staying in it forever? That's the plan, he said. Her eyes traced the tanks again. Then I'll keep it from falling apart while I'm here. Something in her tone made him pause. She wasn't asking permission. She was deciding. He handed her the access tool for the lower tank seals. She took it without hesitation. As the afternoon waned, Stu noticed something else. She hummed when she worked. Barely audible, just a low sound under her breath while she wiped contacts and labeled cores. The same steady rhythm, again and again. It made the shop feel less hollow. At closing, he shut down the register while she stacked the last tray. She hesitated before speaking. If I'm going to keep sleeping here, I need to know the terms. Terms. What you expect from me. What you want. Her voice didn't crack. It was quiet but direct. He leaned on the counter, arms folded. I expect you to work hard, stay honest, and not disappear without telling me. That's all. That's enough, he said. Her jaw tightened. And if I don't want to just be staff? He held her eyes. Then wait until you know what you do want. Decide from there. She seemed to weigh that. I don't want to be property. You're not, he said. You're here because you chose to be. She searched his face like she was trying to find the catch. She didn't find one. That night, when he climbed the stairs to the loft, she followed without being told. She laid the mat out again, slower this time, less tense. He sat on the bed and unlaced his boots. She stood a moment longer, watching him, then finally spoke. Stu, she said. He looked up. I'll stay. For now. He nodded once. Then rest. She lay down with her back to him, pulling the blanket up to her shoulder. Her breathing stayed, even from the start this time. He turned off the lamp. The loft went dark except for the pale glow from the city outside. He lay still, listening to her steady breath, and let the knot in his chest loosen for the first time in months. Tomorrow, he thought, she would stop looking at the door. And maybe you would too. The next morning broke clear, the mist burned away by the upper tier heaters. The shop caught the early white light through the glass wall, sharp and sterile against the worn counters. Stu was already awake when the first tram slid past. He sat on the edge of the bed, boots half-laced, watching her. Illyra lay curled on the mat like she belonged there now. Her breathing stayed even when he moved. Her hair had slipped loose across her face, and the dark shirt he'd given her had twisted in her sleep, bearing one side of her ribs. She stirred only when the coffee machine clicked. You always wake this early, she murmured, voice hoarse. Work piles if you don't, he said. She pushed herself upright, wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, and watched him lace his boots. For a second, her eyes lingered on his hands, steady, practiced, precise. Then she stood, folded the mat, and placed it neatly against the wall without being told. Do I keep staying here? She asked. Yes, he said. She gave a small nod, as if she had half expected him to change his mind overnight. They worked without speaking for the first 2 hours. The air was calm, almost comfortable, until a new delivery arrived. The courier was older, dressed in polished gray, carrying a sealed crate with official registry markings. He eyed Illyra while she signed a receipt. She's not listed on your license, the courier said to Stu. She works here, Stu said. She doesn't exist in the registry, the man replied, a trace of caution in his tone. Neither do half the cores you bring me, Stu said. His voice stayed flat but firm. The courier's mouth tightened. He said nothing more and left. Illyra's hands trembled slightly as she set the crate on the counter. Not from fear, more from anger. He knew where I was from, she said. Maybe, Stu said. You don't care, she said. If he cared, he'd have called enforcement. He didn't. He just wanted me to flinch, Stu said. And you didn't, she said. Not his job to tell me who I can keep, Stu said. She stared at him for a long moment, then went back to work. The shake left her hands. By midday, she was behind the counter sorting parts while Stu repaired a damaged slate. The tension in the air had settled, but something else had shifted. She no longer hovered near the door. She leaned her hip against the counter now when she worked. She hummed again, that quiet rhythm under her breath. When a lunch break came, Stu placed 2 bowls of hot Varen root soup on the counter. She hesitated, then climbed onto a stool instead of the floor. Customers will see me if I sit up here, she said. Good, Stu said. You want them to? I want them to see you belong here, he said. She went still at that. Then she ate slowly, deliberately, as if tasting every bite like it might disappear. After lunch, he caught her studying the cracked ceiling panel above the back shelf. What are you looking for? He asked. How long you've been alone here, she said. He didn't answer at first. Then, for years. And before that, Scout Division, planetary surveys. Border worlds, he said. Why leave? Too many bodies, he said simply. Not enough reasons. She watched his face like she wanted to argue, then didn't. I worked in the registry for 7 years, she said quietly. I thought I'd stay until my hair turned gray. Then they called me ornamental and locked my access badge. Ornamental, he repeated. It meant they were done pretending I mattered, she said. She said it without bitterness, which made it worse. You matter here, he said. Her eyes snapped to him. Why are you saying that? Because it's true, he said. She stared a second longer, then turned back to the shelf and said nothing. But her shoulders loosened. That evening, after closing, Stu locked the door and turned off the front lamps. He climbed to the loft and found her standing at the window, staring down at the glowing tram lines below. If I stay, she said without turning, what am I to you? The question was soft but sharp. He moved closer, stopped just behind her. Right now, my best worker. And later, that's your decision, he said. I don't want to be owned, she said. Then don't be, he said. Just stay. She turned her head slightly, eyes catching the faint reflection of the city in the glass. That's simple. Yes, he said. She studied him, long and silent, as if waiting for him to ruin it with something he didn't say. He didn't. Eventually, she exhaled, turned back to the window, and let her head rest against the glass. That night, she laid her mat down beside his bed instead of across the loft. Not touching, not asking. Just closer. He said nothing about it. They slept in the same warm silence, the tanks humming below, the old paper sign still taped to the glass downstairs like it was waiting to be replaced, but not yet. Morning light pushed through the glass wall in sharp white bands. The loft smelled faintly of old paper and the bitter edge of cooling Froland seed brew from the night before. Stu lay still on his back for a while, eyes open, scanning the lines of the ceiling like he always did on waking, listening for off-pattern hums, waiting for anything out of place. Nothing was, except her. Illyra was asleep on the mat, just beside his bed now, not across the loft like before. She lay on her side, hair tangled across the floor, one knee drawn up, the shirt he'd given her slipping down her shoulder. The distance between them was barely a step, close enough that he could hear the soft catch in her breathing, like her body was still half-braced, even in sleep. He sat up slowly, her eyes open before he made sound. You're getting used to it, he said. Her voice was low. To what? Not running. She blinked once and sat up too, wrapping the blanket around her. I haven't decided if I'm staying, she said, though her tone lacked conviction. Good, he said. Deciding while rested is smarter. They worked the morning hours wordlessly. She moved faster than yesterday, sharper, catching small faults in the cores before he did. When he noticed her adjusting the clamps to match his method exactly, he realized something else. She was watching him not just to copy, but to understand how he thought. Around mid-shift, 2 younger tech brokers walked in. They were loud, careless, half smiling in the way people do when they're sure nothing in the room matters. One of them looked at Illyra too long. She knew, he said to Stu, smirking. She's staff, Stu said flatly. She doesn't look like staff, the broker muttered. Stu stood to full height without raising his voice. Then adjust your idea of staff. The man's grin faltered. He dropped the slate on the counter and muttered something about deadlines. They left quickly. When the door clicked shut, Illyra was still staring at the counter, jaw tight. You didn't have to say that, she said. Yes, I did, Stu said. I don't want people thinking. They already do, he cut in. That's how they work. You don't change it by folding smaller. Her eyes narrowed faintly. Then how? You just stand, he said. She was quiet a moment, then nodded, slow, like filing it away. By lunch, she was leaning on the counter like she'd always been there. They ate quietly. Zyron bread scorched on a heat plate. Berry paste streaked across it in careless lines. He caught her licking a bit of paste from her thumb, saw her flush when she realized he'd seen, and pretended to be busy with the kettle so she could recover. In the afternoon, he taught her the restoration tank routine. Flush, settle, pulse, lift. She absorbed every step, repeating it without needing correction. Her hair kept falling forward as she worked, and when she pushed it back, the silver thread she'd woven in that morning caught the light. When they closed, she didn't wait for instruction. She locked the door, turned off the lamps, and followed him upstairs like it was normal now. She spread the mat without looking at him, set the blanket down, then paused. Why are you really letting me stay? She asked quietly. Stu leaned on the rail. Because you make the work cleaner. That's all. That's enough for now, he said. She searched his face a few long seconds. Her voice softened, almost cautious. And if I stop being useful, then you stay because you want to, he said. She looked away, hiding something that flickered across her face too fast to read. You make it sound simple. It is, he said. She lay down, facing him this time. He turned off the lamp. The city glow washed faint across her skin. She stayed awake a little longer, eyes open, watching him through the dim like she was trying to solve something. Then her breathing steadied. He stayed awake longer than he needed to. Not to watch her, just because for the first time in years, the room felt full. The next morning began quieter than usual. No trams shrieked past. No courier bots clattered along the deck outside. Just the low hum of the tanks below and the soft buzz of the wall console coming out of standby. Stu sat at the workbench in a clean shirt with the sleeves rolled, fingers wrapped around a mug, watching her move about the loft. Illyra had woken before him this time. She folded her blanket, stacked her mat, and brushed her hair back with precise movements. She didn't speak at first. She didn't look at him much either, just moved calm, collected, like she'd already made some internal decision and hadn't said it yet. Start the brew, he said. She obeyed without hesitation, poured 2 mugs, and slid one across the table to him. No asking if he wanted it. No pause. He noticed that. You're faster today, he said. I decided to be, she replied simply. They went downstairs together. She walked ahead, not behind, bare feet silent on the steel steps. The shift was subtle but obvious. She was no longer moving like a guest. The first customer came early, a silent contractor with 3 cracked cores. Illyra handled the intake without looking at Stu for approval. She noted each serial, stamped the ticket, and even gave a pickup estimate. Her tone was clipped but steady professional. The contractor didn't question her. He didn't even glance at Stu. When the door closed, Stu was leaning on the counter. You're running my shop, he said. Just keeping it from falling behind, she said. Same thing, he said. The air shifted between them. Not tension, just awareness. She worked through the morning with fluid precision. No wasted motion, no hesitation. He caught himself watching her more than the parts. The shirt she wore had slipped lower on her shoulder, and she never fixed it. Her hips moved in small, clean arcs as she crossed between shelves, barefoot and silent. By midday, they'd cut through the entire intake queue. He sat on the counter and opened 2 sealed rations. She stood beside him, leaning her hip into the wood. You said you were a scout, she said. He glanced at her. I did. Did you like it? No, he said. I was good at it. That's different. She chewed slowly, watching his face. Did you leave because of someone? No, because of everyone, he said. She didn't push. She just nodded, as if filing it next to everything else she knew about him. When they finished eating, she didn't go back to work immediately. She lingered at the counter, standing close. Close enough that her shoulder brushed his arm when she reached for the marker pen. He didn't move away. In the afternoon, a problem came through the door. A client angry about a misfiled ledger from a week ago. Stu could feel irritance beside him as the man raised his voice. She stepped forward before Stu spoke, voice level and cold. You dropped it and signed. It was logged as scrap by protocol. We don't misfile here, she said. The man faltered, looked at her, then muttered something and left. When the door shut, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. You handled that, Stu said. I didn't want him talking to you like that, she said. He held her gaze. You don't have to defend me. I know, she said. I wanted to. They didn't speak for a while after that. They didn't need to. When closing time came, she didn't wait for him to say anything. She locked the front door, dimmed the lamps, and followed him up to the loft. This time she didn't pull out the mat. She stood near the bed, silent, like she was waiting for something she wasn't sure how to ask for. Stu sat on the edge of the bed and unlaced his boots. If you're tired, lie down, he said. I'm not tired, she said softly. He looked up at her. Her hair hung loose now, shoulders bare, eyes locked on his. Then what are you? He asked. She hesitated. Close, she said. The word landed between them like something heavy. He didn't speak. He just shifted back and left space on the bed. She moved slowly, deliberately, and lay down on top of the blanket, facing him. Her hand hovered halfway to his chest, then stopped. Say it, she whispered. You belong here, he said steady. She closed her eyes, like the words cut something loose inside her. Her hand settled on his chest, light, almost cautious. He covered it with his own and felt her fingers twitch once, then relax. They stayed like that, silent, while the city lights flickered beyond the glass. And for the first time, she didn't fall asleep guarded. She just slept. Night blurred into silence around the loft. The hum of the tanks below had faded to a distant murmur, and the only light came from the thin city glow cutting in through the glass wall. Stu hadn't moved in an hour. Illyra lay half-curled against him, breathing slow and deep, her palms still resting on his chest where she had left it. He had thought she was asleep, but when his hand shifted slightly over hers, her fingers tightened in response. Her voice came quietly. You meant it. Yes, he said, that I belong here. I don't say things I don't mean, he said. She turned her face toward him. Her hair brushed his collarbone, cool against his warm skin. Her eyes caught the faint light, molten gold in the dark. I didn't think you wanted anyone here, she said. I didn't, he admitted, until you stood under that sign. I thought if I stood there long enough, someone would pretend not to see me, she said. Her voice stayed steady, but her jaw shifted as she said it, like she was holding something tight. They saw you, he said. They just didn't stop. Her breath caught once, sharp, then leveled. You stopped. I don't know why, he said. Yes, you do, she said. He didn't argue. Her hand slid slowly from his chest to his side. If I stay, she said, it can't be because I'm useful. It won't be, he said. You'll say that now, she whispered. But what if I have nothing to give you? You've already given me something, he said. She frowned faintly. What? He looked straight at her. Peace. I stopped expecting the room to be empty. For a long moment, she said nothing. Her throat moved, her breathing shallow. Then her hand traced the line of his ribs carefully, like she was learning the shape of him by touch. Then I don't want to leave, she said. Then don't, he said. She shifted closer. The shirt she wore had slipped down to her waist now, bearing the soft golden curve of her shoulder. Her knee brushed his thigh, slow and hesitant. He didn't move, just watched her, steady as stone but heat building under his skin. You'll stop if I say stop, she said. Yes, he said. She held his gaze. Then she closed the gap and kissed him. It wasn't tentative. It was slow, deliberate, controlled, but her hand trembled where it gripped his shirt. He kissed her back without pulling her closer, letting her choose the distance. When she leaned more into him, he slid one hand to her hip. Her breath caught. She froze for half a second, then pressed forward deeper. Her lips were warm, firm, not shaking anymore. The kiss broke when she pulled back just far enough to breathe against his mouth. "I'm not scared of you," she said quietly. "Good," he said. "Don't be." She exhaled through her nose, steadying herself, and laid her head on his chest. His hand stayed at her hip, holding her just enough to feel her weight. Neither of them spoke again. They lay that way until her breathing slowed and evened, her body fully settling against him without tension for the first time. Stu stared at the ceiling until his eyes blurred, realizing he wasn't bracing for anything. For once, there was nothing to guard against. Sunlight washed across the loft in a clean strip of white when Stu opened his eyes. For a moment, he stayed still, listening. The tanks hummed softly below, the trams outside hissed on their rails, and Illyra's breathing moved slow and steady against his chest. Her arm was draped across his stomach, her leg hooked loosely over his. The shirt she'd worn was twisted halfway around her waist, tangled in her hair. She stirred when he shifted. Her eyes opened, unfocused at first, then sharp. When she realized how she was lying against him, she didn't move away. She just blinked calm. "Morning," she said quietly. "Morning," he replied. Her eyes searched his face for something. Maybe regret. She didn't find it. "You're not sending me back to the mat," she said. "No," he said. She rolled on her back beside him, staring up at the ceiling, hands folded over her stomach. "Then this is real. It's real if we say it is," he said. She turned her head to him, hair spilling across the pillow. "Then say it. You're not just staff," he said. "You're mine, if you want to be." Her breath caught, shallow. "I want to be," she said. The words landed clean. No pause, no doubt. They got up together. She didn't take her mat with her when they went downstairs. She didn't glance at the door once. The shop opened early. They worked in sync without speaking much. He lifting the heavier crates, she handling the intake queue, both of them moving with an ease that hadn't been there before. The tension had shifted. It wasn't caution now. It was closeness. By midday, a few regular customers had started greeting her directly. She greeted them back, voice steady. She wore one of Stu's dark shirts tucked at her waist, sleeves rolled above her elbows. She handled the counter while he repaired a delicate data crystal at the bench. When the last customer left, she leaned on the counter and looked around the shop like she was seeing it properly for the first time. "This place, it's quiet, but it's alive," she said. "It's better with you in it," Stu said. Her mouth curved just slightly. "I know." They ate lunch on the loft floor, legs stretched out, plates between them. Zyron bread with berry paste and a bowl of warm root stew they split between spoons. She fed him a bite without thinking, then froze, realizing what she'd done. He bit it off the spoon, chewed, and said nothing, just met her eyes. She flushed, smiled once, small, honest, and kept eating. After closing, Stu pulled the old supply crate from under the bench. Inside lay her original ceremonial wrap, folded neatly. He lifted it and set it on the counter. "You want to keep this?" he asked. She stared at it for a long moment. The white silk was frayed, the ribbon torn, the faint smell of rusted rail dust still clinging to it. "No," she said. "You sure?" "I don't need it," she said. "That was for surviving. This is for living." She stepped close, took the wrap from his hands, and placed it back in the crate. Then she closed the lid and pressed her palm flat on it, like sealing a decision. "That part's done," she said. "Good," he said. They went upstairs as the city lights flickered on below. She didn't hesitate now, just slipped off his shirt, set it on the chair, and climbed into his bed. Not on top of the blanket, not beside it. She lay in the center, eyes on him. "Well," she said. He joined her without a word. They lay facing each other, close enough to share the same slow breath. Her hand slid along his jaw, her thumb tracing his cheek. He kissed her, slower than the night before, deeper, without holding anything back this time. Her fingers gripped his shoulder, steady, certain. When they broke apart, she whispered, "No one ever chose me," and meant it. "I'm not like them," he said. "I know," she said. She pressed her forehead to his and closed her eyes. "Then this is ours." "It's ours," he said. They stayed that way, wrapped around each other, until the trams quieted and the lights dimmed across the city. Downstairs, the paper help wanted sign was still taped to the glass. It didn't mean the same thing anymore. It wasn't calling anyone in. It was the marker of the day she walked in and never had to leave again. And now she never would. Days passed quietly, the way neither of them had ever known life could be. The shop no longer felt like a place Stu guarded. It felt like something they were building together, piece by piece, without saying it aloud. Illyra worked behind the counter in soft gray tunics now, clothes they'd picked together from the lower-tier markets. She kept her hair braided at the sides, silver thread woven through, and customers began asking for her by name. She answered without glancing at Stu anymore, confident, calm, like she belonged behind that counter as much as the shelves did. Each morning, they shared bread and coffee at the same table, their knees brushing under the wood. Each evening, they climbed the loft stairs together and undressed without speaking, not with secrecy anymore, but with an ease that came from knowing neither of them was going anywhere. The tension that had once hung between them had burned off like old fog. What replaced it was quieter, steadier, and warmer, like a rhythm they had finally fallen into after weeks of resisting. She no longer kept her blanket folded by the wall. The mat was gone entirely. One late evening, after closing the shop, they sat cross-legged on the loft floor with empty bowls between them and the soft hiss of the old recorder humming in the background. The city lights flickered far below the glass wall. "You stopped bracing all the time," Illyra said softly. "I didn't notice," Stu said. "I did," she said. She reached out, traced her fingertip down the center of his chest. "Your shoulders used to be tight, even in your sleep." "They were waiting for everything to fall apart," he said. "And now they trust you to hold it together," he said. Her eyes softened, molten and steady. "Then tonight, let me show you how much this means to me," she said. She rose to her knees in front of him, slow and sure, fingers slipping under the hem of her tunic and peeling it over her head in one fluid motion. The thin fabric fell to the floor, leaving her skin glowing gold orange under the soft amber light. Her hair tumbled loose from its braid, spilling over her shoulders and brushing her collarbones. Stu's eyes followed her as she moved closer, deliberate and unhurried. His breath deepened as she straddled his lap, bare thighs warm and firm around him. She rested her hands on his shoulders, watching his face as though searching for even the smallest hesitation. There was none. Her lips met his, slow and full, her breath catching slightly as his hands settled at her waist. She kissed him deeper, pressing her body against his until he felt every line of her shape, soft skin, lean muscle, the rise and fall of her chest against his. Her fingers slid down his torso, unfastening his shirt with slow, careful motions, revealing each inch of him like she was unwrapping something she'd claimed. He let her take control, his hands roaming her back, tracing the dip of her spine down to the curve of her hips. She gasped softly when his palms gripped her thighs and lifted her just enough to lay her back on the wide bed. Her hair spread like white fire across the pillow as she pulled him down with her. Their bodies moved together with no urgency, just a rising heat. Her legs wrapped around his hips, pulling him closer, their breaths sinking in short, uneven bursts as his mouth trailed along her jaw, down her throat, over her collarbone. She arched beneath him, nails dragging lightly over his shoulder blades, her eyes half closed but locked on his face. He paused only long enough to brush her hair from her eyes and whisper, "Are you sure?" "I've been sure for days," she said, voice low and steady. After that, there were no words. They moved with building rhythm, each touch deliberate, each shift slow and deep, not frantic, like they were memorizing each other's reactions. Her breath rose in soft, broken moans, her hands clutching his back, his name slipping from her lips in half-formed whispers. His body tensed against hers as she tightened around him, every movement pulling a shiver up his spine. When they finally reached the peak together, she clung to him like she was afraid gravity might break them apart. He held her through it, strong and steady, his mouth against her shoulder, his heartbeat hammering against her ribs. After, they stayed tangled together in silence, skin damp and warm, her head resting on his chest as he stroked slow lines down her spine. The recorder hummed its quiet static loop. The city was just a faint glow beyond the glass, distant and irrelevant. Illyra's eyes drifted shut, her lips curved faintly against his skin. "I love this place," she whispered. "This place is just walls," he said quietly. "You're what makes it feel alive." Her arms tightened around him. "Then I'm never leaving." "Good," he said, "because I'd never let you." They stayed like that, pressed together under the soft light, until sleep pulled them under. No walls left between them, no conditions, no doubts. There was no mat on the floor anymore. No paper sign on the door downstairs. Just two people who had finally stopped searching for where they belonged, because they had found it in each other.